Okay, pursuant to Governor Baker's last March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and his last order, March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place due to COVID, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Select Board will be conducted via remote participation, and every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings as soon as possible. The Town of Berlin uses best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel, and approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. How's that?
It's awesome.
Good. All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. We have, I believe, no minutes this evening to approve.
No, we'll work on those for next week.
Yep.
That's fine. Do we have any correspondence, Margaret?
No new correspondence.
Okay.
Oh, I shouldn't say that. We did get correspondence from KP Law. I received a letter indicating that they're going to increase their fees by $10 an hour, starting in FY22. That would mean that it goes from $180 to $190 an hour.
Okay. All
That's all I
right.
have.
Then general public comment.
There isn't anybody.
We're
No one's
alone.
here.
We're
That's
all
right.
alone. All
It's us.
alone.
Oh, well, you know where you can reach us if you see this video.
True.
So we will meet with our highway superintendent, Dave.
Hi,
How's it going,
Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Dave's muted.
Hi, Dave.
Hello,
Dave's
everyone.
unmuted.
Hey.
Look.
It's 7 minutes too early. We'll have to waste 7 minutes before my scheduled time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, think of it as a favor.
Oh, thanks. So we made it through February.
Yay.
It was challenging. We got I'm not sure if you remember, but in January I said how nice the winter weather has been. Well, we paid for it in February, but we got through it. It wasn't unreasonable. We did spend some money, but we're still within our budget.
Mhm.
Hopefully we're over it, but I'm sure there'll be a few more storms. Historically, there's averages, there's another 6 or 7 storms still coming. So
Oh,
it's
boy.
probably not over. But
Wow.
can
Aren't you the party fart?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's supposed to be 60 the next couple of days, and now we're talking about 6 more storms. Yay.
Wow. All right, everyone invite Dave to a party. There you go.
plan a party. I'll guarantee you it'll snow or it'll be some ice or something.
There you go.
So we advertised for the positions. We interviewed last week for, we had two people we interviewed. We're trying to change some things with personnel to change the job description or the position description. We're having a hard time getting people that have all the required licenses, so we might have to modify our plan here a little bit. Not the end of the world. National Grid's been going crazy. I'm sure that if you've driven around town, you've seen how many trees are taken down. We've been trying to chase around as time allows to pick up the logs in the wood that they've left. We're making headway on that. Let's see. I just want to shout out to Dave Litchwell and Tommy Dorr that through the month of February, they were very instrumental in getting us through the winter storms that we had. They were a tremendous asset to the town they are a tremendous asset, but they helped me out tremendously, especially Dave. He answered the call every time we had to go out. He actually took over one of the routes and did a very nice job with that. So I just want to thank them for that.
Yes, thank you to them.
Yeah.
Thank you to them and to all of you. It's been a winter.
Yeah, well, it is what it is.
Mhm.
Ice dams again over the police station. It was causing some water leakage in Sharon's office. That's been an ongoing issue. The ice dams are on the back side of the building too. There was quite a bit. There's probably 8 or 10 inches of ice in a couple of those valleys. So, and then we had that rainstorm in like the second week of February. So everything that was up there was trying to melt, and the water couldn't go anywhere. So we went up and addressed that. The boilers, as you know, failed last week. The pumps let go on them. So there's oil pumps inside each one of the burners. And according to the service technician, it's because they're failing because the government mandates that we run a certain percentage of alcohol type fuel or biofuel or something in the fuel oil or diesel fuel. And the pumps don't get the lubrication they need. So he said this is actually a pretty common problem. So they're up and running. We had one parts are very difficult to get for everything, not just the oil burners, but we're having some issues getting some parts for some of the equipment in the highway barn. But he was able to get one pump. They freed up the other 2, and there's another pump or another 2 pumps on order. So at least we didn't freeze anything up when we got through the real cold spell. Other than that, business as usual. Come on, Peg, you gotta have a question for me.
Oh, were you on Crosby today?
Yes, we were.
There you go. That was my question. All day long. I'm like, Dave's gonna be around here somewhere. Yeah.
If I could, through the chair, Dave and Dave understands that I'm going to be making a recommendation on cemetery groundskeeping for FY22. He and I have discussed it. So Dave, I just wanted to let you know that I'm presenting a recommendation to the board tonight. If you wanted to stick around, or if you had anything to that you wanted to contribute as far as that goes.
Yeah, that's fine. I actually have I printed out the email that you sent out about that regarding that, your letter.
Okay.
It is my understanding that doing this also helps us have some promotion abilities within the department. In other words, you could hire people at these newer positions that could grow into the licensed ones.
Well, that's something that we would definitely look into. I'm not sure hour-wise, this kind of presents a problem, and it's a problem we had with Ayton. We had to limit the amount of hours so that we didn't end up with a full-time benefited position. So unless the town's looking to move forward with that, that's something we got to keep an eye on. But this definitely, I think merging it would be a benefit, not only for the cemetery, but for us, because now we could bring in another part-time employee that would, we could keep busy, through the summer months, having two part-time employees. We didn't have that this past summer, but the year before we actually had 2 part-time employees, and it was very helpful because it freed up my guys to be able to do other stuff. But it certainly would be nice to have an entry-level position that we could start to transition somebody into a long-term relationship with the town. That's how Jimmy started. Jimmy started mowing grass in the cemetery when he was a teenager.
Wow.
Good.
So Dave, did you happen to take a ride down Bailey Road?
I did. That tree in question is outside of the layout.
Okay. Just checking, because I don't know what the rules and regs are about, trees. So, okay. Good to know. All right. Any other questions for Dave?
All good.
All good.
Okay.
We've got 2 more interviews tomorrow afternoon, so we'll see. Well,
Good.
hopefully 2 more.
So where is the on the agenda?
It's under new
business.
business, I thought.
It is.
Yeah.
Do we want to bring it up before Louise comes on in 10 minutes?
Do you think we have time, Margaret?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
I'm fine with bringing it up now.
Yep.
All right. Then why don't we move on to the cemetery groundskeeping and the TA's recommendation.
Okay, I've submitted a recommendation to the board this includes a couple of recommendations. First, That effective July 1st, 2021, the Highway Department assumes cemetery groundskeeping and maintenance duties under the operational supervision of Dave, the highway superintendent, and under the general policy oversight of the Cemetery Commission as they're allowed under statute. So all communications, according to my recommendation, would be from the Cemetery Commission through the highway superintendent. So the Cemetery Commission, this format wouldn't allow direct communication with the groundskeeper. There would be a chain of communication. I know you've already discussed this tonight, but I think there is opportunity for cost efficiency here and staffing bench strength. In addition to what Dave mentioned before about having the additional staff under his operational authority, it could also potentially allow for more winter staffing capacity as well for winter operations. So I've presented that recommendation. The recommendation would involve shifting $16,000 from the cemetery expense line for FY22 and moving it to the Highway Department part-time wages line at an hourly rate of a laborer driver position, whether it be at the lower end of the scale or the mid scale, depending on the person's experience. And then in addition to that, and I know this is somewhat separate, but in addition to that, we have the ongoing issue of the contracted services in this current fiscal year. My recommendation to the board is that the Cemetery Commission be given the special municipal employee designation until June 30th, 2021. Require that the cemetery contractor, the person who's been doing the service, file the proper disclosures and have those approved by the board. Cap the contracted wages at $8,000 as was suggested by Barry in his letter, and allow the contract to extend only until June 30th, 2021. So that would take care of this fiscal year, and then moving into next year, it would be transitioned to under the Highway Department's operational supervision.
Okay, questions?
I have a question. Is June on board with us this evening?
Yes, June she's not here.
She's not at the meeting.
At the Finance Committee meeting right now.
So just if we take that $16,000 and put it all into a part-time payroll fund, what about expenses related to cemetery equipment?
So expenses related to, that's a very good point, because those, I haven't proposed shifting those. So I don't know how much the Cemetery Commission actually allocates in their expense line for maintenance of cemetery equipment. So that's something that we would have to talk with the Cemetery Commission about.
That's the only concern I would have.
Good question.
Yeah. My understanding was that Mr. Pendergast had an awful lot of lawnmowers up at his house.
Well, that's the thing, centralizing the storage location.
I'm assuming they were cemetery.
No, but I think it's safe to assume the Cemetery Commission in their expense line item has the money to keep their equipment in good repair. And I think if their equipment needs repair, it still can come out of that budget, at least for fiscal year 22, as we figure out more. The cemetery has makes it sound bigger than it is, but has their own specialized equipment. It's that their mowers are a little bit narrower beds than some of the ones the highway uses because the narrow lines between the stones. And we obviously want to make sure the stones are properly respected and taken care of and not damaged.
Do we have an inventory of what cemetery has for equipment? Do we really know what's out there and where it is and what condition it's in?
Well, I can't answer all the questions. There is an inventory of the larger equipment, so I can't answer questions as to the weed trimmers and things like that. But the larger equipment, we have inventory. I think storage is primarily at the old highway barn, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Dave?
I believe so. I haven't been in that
I
building.
The one
I
in
thought
Carter?
storage. I thought the storage was at the cemeteries. They have storage buildings at each cemetery that contains equipment.
Oh, I don't know if the
So for
larger tractors are there.
right, for summer use, I think the equipment is stored at the cemetery on, is that Highlands?
Pleasant? Oh, there's one on Highland and there's one on
Pleasant.
Pleasant.
But I think now, I think at least one of the mowers is in the old highway barn.
Okay. Yeah, so it's probably worth going through and just, updating the inventory. But so this will, to your question, Dave, I think we'll have to establish, we're going to have to establish protocols for, repair costs and things like that. Make sure the cemetery commission is on board for the payment of certain costs where the highway department cannot repair something. So we'll have to put all those things in place.
Margaret, could you also maybe, if we talk to Barry, he had mentioned in one of his comments that there's multiple accounts that, could be used for repair, whether it's for gas or maybe it's something down at National Lumber. I can't remember the list that he said, but could we check to see if those are still viable and do we need them? And
Yeah.
I'm assuming that we'd need to move them over to Dave after
Yeah.
July.
Yeah, it was accounts for
Yeah,
like charging things and
Yep.
then paying later.
Okay,
The
those.
perpetual care accounts for the cemeteries?
No, I think they're talking charge accounts at
yeah,
the
charge
lumber
accounts.
store.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the cemetery commission would still have authority over the perpetual care funds and things like that. So, all right, we can look at the charge accounts too.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no more questions, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I was writing, I was waiting, and seconded.
Okay. All right, then we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And thank you, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome. Just what I'm looking to do is take on some more stuff.
Oh,
But-
this will just
But
remind
there's
us that
there's some
give and
staffing that
take.
goes with it, so.
Staffing. There you
Yeah.
go.
And we
Yeah.
could have a
Alright.
we could have a fundraiser, each select board member, mows for a week and then there's a judging contest at the end to see who did the best job.
Oh, I'm losing that one.
Mhm.
I have a
Okay.
townhome for a reason.
Okay,
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave. Have a good night.
Good.
Yep, you too.
See you tomorrow.
All right. It's about 7:20. Do you
Sure.
want to promote Louise?
Yeah, and Liz is also here.
Liz is
so
there in the
we'll
audience
do
too,
Liz
yeah.
as well.
Okay. Hi.
Hi there. Liz is joining us and possibly Lawrence Holyoke, who's also willing to work on Earth Day.
Okay.
Right,
If we see her come up in the attendees, we can promote her.
okay.
Mhm.
So, Earth Day.
Okay.
What did I say? It's March 22nd? Is that
Well,
right?
that's the official Earth Day, but that's a
Okay.
Thursday, I believe. Yes,
Oh, all right.
Thursday. So we usually run it the Saturday after Earth Day, unless the 22nd is a Saturday. So that would be the 24th.
Okay.
Of April.
Mhm.
Yes, right. So if that's agreeable, that's what we can plan for.
Sounds good. Do you ever have
That's
a
good.
do you ever have a weather like if it's really bad weather, do you have a rain date or
date.
something?
We haven't in the past, and I remember collecting cans and things, trash in
Yeah.
the rain, not a heavy rain though. One of the things we have done is that we've made bags available in different locations that people can go and pick them up and just and gather trash whenever they have a chance. And in the past, the highway department and Hudson Disposal has been willing to pick up any yellow bags they see on the side of the road. So we've done it before the Earth Day and after Earth Day. So, you know, if we could have the support of the highway department and Hudson Disposal, it makes it easier because people can go out when they have a chance.
Right.
So, no, we've never considered a rain date, but that is a possibility. I mean, if it's a deluge, I don't think I'd want to be out there picking up trash. So we could talk about it at our Conservation Commission meeting and see if we want to set a rain date.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, whatever advertising you put out, you could always advertise that there is a rain date. Or, you know,
Right,
people could do it whenever they're available and have the trash picked up on a certain day or week.
right.
I seem to
Yeah, well,
remember,
the highway department and Hudson Disposal has been very good. If they see a yellow bag on the side of the road,
Yeah.
whenever they're out there, they pick them up.
Mhm.
I think we
Right.
can't do a Sunday rain date if Saturday rains though, right? Because Hudson Disposal is closed and
The dump's closed.
yeah,
Can we get around that? Who would have access to the transfer station?
Board of
I
Health.
have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
don't
that's
know.
why
Have
we
to
didn't
look
have
at-
a rain date.
Right, yeah.
might be.
Well, I know the highway department does go in there when it's not, when the
Open.
transfer station is not open. But I don't know how that would work. That's something we could look into.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Louise and Liz, can you come up with some sort of advertising and then, you know, post it to your conservation page, and then we can probably get it out on the Town of Berlin page, and then get it out on both unofficial Berlin Facebook pages, Residents United and Berlin Neighbors Connect.
Okay, yeah, in the past, I think, well, last fall, I think Mary made up the poster, but Lawrence Holyoke had been doing in the past, so it could work with her
Okay,
to make up a poster, and then we can write a blurb to be put out on, you know, Conservation Facebook page and
Mhm.
Berlin Neighbors.
yep.
And Peg, you mentioned something about contacting the item. Do you do that in the calendar page or?
I just email Jan.
Jan?
And I'm
Right.
like, I need your help. And then she just puts it anywhere. So, I mean, once you have all that information written up, let's see, so if it's, so we would probably need it, or Jan would probably need it. I don't know how often you want to run it, maybe the week of the 12th and the week of the 19th to hit the week of and the weekend.
Right.
before.
I
Right.
think
think
it's
it
like
might
Monday
be-
or Tuesday is like
Right.
deadline
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
I think it would be a
that-
good idea to have it posted in the calendar section.
Mhm.
You know, as soon as we get something put together.
Yep.
Okay, so, you know, we can do that or.
Yep. Yeah, just get it, you know, send it over to me once you guys are done with it, and then I will forward it to Jan as well.
Okay, all right.
To-
Last year, we were able, Mary printed the flyers for us on the post. Is that something that could be done again this year?
I don't know whether Mary's
Saved it?
available to do that. Not sure.
Okay,
So we might be able to help out, but I would ask that the flyers be designed and, you know, ready to just be copied, and that way we can copy them right in the offices.
okay, so Liz and I and Lawrence will come up with a poster and a flyer and email it to you to be, okay, that would work.
Can
All
I
right.
ask what format, Peg, is best for Facebook? I work on a Mac and I know I struggled does it need to be a PDF or a JPEG or GIF or like
I mean,
what?
honestly, for Facebook, Liz, I write it in Word so that I have no grammatical issues. And then I just cut and paste it in.
Okay.
Mm.
All right.
So no
Yeah, I think we could
pictures.
get
Yeah,
Lawrence.
if it's a picture, JPEGs are gonna work best.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've put them up there before for Halloween. We've put up a flyer and it'll come up.
We had to
Okay.
pick a certain one though, Peg, remember? One of them distorted.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about Facebook is that, you can put it up, especially in Berlin Residents Unite, because it's like an instant post. So you can put it up, and if it looks horrible, you can just go in quick and delete it and pretend that it never happened.
All right. Okay. All right. I did mention to the police chief Galvin and the fire chief Clark that we were planning on doing Earth Day, and they said that they would help with whatever they could. And we've always had the help of the highway department, so we'll contact them and see what they're willing to do again this year.
Louise, can you repeat the date, please? For everyone's in
April 24th.
April 24th.
Yes, 2021.
And what are the hours? Did we do like 9 to 2?
9 to 2.
Okay.
Yes, because we have to get it to the transfer station by 3 or before,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, so, all right, and we have a map that we've been using, to keep track of which streets have been done and which ones need to be done. However, it's terribly out of date. I think we've been using it for 15 years or so. And a lot of the new streets are not on that map that I have. So is there an updated map that would fit on an 8.5 by 11 paper?
I would assume that probably your best bet is Dave Litchwell, who's our fire marshal guy. I think he's probably the one that knows where the
Okay.
streets go. I
All
mean,
right, yeah, I didn't get in touch. I talked to Eloise and she didn't
Yeah.
have it. She sent the information over to the assessor's office,
mm,
and I almost immediately received all of the street maps, but there's about 20 of them.
Yeah.
He said, well, no, that's not what we're looking for, but anyway, all right, so we'll do that.
I mean, that's my guess.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would
him
think so.
or,
Yeah, I asked the police chief, I sent the police chief an email and he said he didn't have one, and he recommended the town clerk, but she didn't have one. All right. I mentioned this to Peg earlier. I read or saw the information on the discussion with, what is it, Highland Liquors about the nip bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the town of Sterling arranged with the liquor stores in Sterling to get a small amount of money for each nip bottle that was collected. And I believe it was donated to something. So I thought, well, maybe we could arrange that with Daniels and Highland Liquors, that they would give us a nickel per nip bottle. And
well,
right,
Peg-
and then we could also have people collect the cans and bottles separately, and then do the same thing with that. And I thought maybe because the food pantry can't do their wine tasting fundraiser, we give them the money from the returnable bottles and cans and the nip bottles.
Peg, I was thinking, would you like to contact both of those, the liquor stores? And find out, the one in Highland Commons said like they'd be happy to help pick up trash,
right,
or they would
Right,
be
well,
happy to do a
that's-
donation.
Yeah, that's what gave me the idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
hang up-
Can
hang
I,
up the
can
Earth Day
I,
flyers too.
yeah, just logistically, I'm thinking of the times when I'm picking up sandy, crushed, dirty nip bottles and thinking, do I have to have a bag for that and a bag for the cans and then a bag for trash?
Right.
and then they're all covered in mud anyway. Maybe just a flat out donation. I think it's a good idea. I just think logistically, I'd rather not have 3 bags going.
That is true.
Yeah.
A donation sounds like a great idea, and it would be easy if the donation came right from the liquor stores and went to the food pantry. That would be easy, because we can't have it filter through the town. So if they
Right,
if they'd be
okay.
willing to do that.
All right. Okay, I'd be willing to contact them. I mean, we could maybe turn an account of how many nip bottles and cans and things, you know,
Yeah, I could do an estimate.
an estimate, right? Well, people that have been keeping track the last few years. So so we'll put something out about that, you know, count how many nip bottles and cans and stuff. And all right, but first we'll talk to the liquor stores and probably approach the food pantry, ask them if they'd be interested. I'm sure they would be.
Okay.
Okay. The other question is, where do we hold it? In the past, we held it in front of the what's called the Children's Church in the center of town. Then we had it at the Berlin Realty and the insurance office. And that worked really well because it was a kind of a cold, nippy day. We could go inside. In the fall, we held it down at the town offices, and I thought that worked really, really well. So,
And you have the option to go inside in the lobby there too.
pardon?
You have the option to go inside the lobby there too.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. All right. I did have one other thought. Okay.
Donuts,
Coffee.
Donuts and coffee.
snacks.
All right.
Snacks.
And also, last year, the Berlin Farms was willing to give people a free sundae. I think, we made up some tickets, little vouchers for that and everything. We didn't do it for the coffee at the general store, but we told people to go, and not that many people went. I don't know how many people went for the ice cream. I'd like to see if Berlin Orchards would donate the donuts. By the way, those are a big hit.
Mm-hmm. Apple
Right.
cider.
Oh, apple cider would be good too,
Mhm.
especially if it's a warmish day.
And well, the apple cider donuts.
Mm.
Oh,
We're stunning,
Mm.
yes.
With some apple
how
cider.
about both?
Ah,
I mean, we could help subsidize right. All right, so it would be fine to contact some of the businesses in town like that and see if they're willing to make donations.
Mhm.
I mean, it gets people to be aware that they're here in town
Mhm.
and to drop in and, right, okay. All right, do you have any questions?
Can't think of anything. Anybody else?
No.
No, I think
Oh.
you've covered it. So I'll get a hold of Jan and the item once I get the information from you ladies, and then we can get that posted. I can help and get that posted up on Facebook. Yeah, if Dave Litchwell can't give you the streets, Louise, I'm sure he'll be able to tell you where you can find that, nice new map. And then if you need help contacting Highland Liquors or Dagnos to see if they can do some type of donation or, take areas around them. I tried doing streets last time and I'm not going to do it this time, whatever that one is, and then that one. Let me know and I can, we have time, so I can help out with that.
Okay, all right. And I don't know if like I know Margaret, you and Peg last year sat at the table, so that was a big help.
Oh, I went down.
Margaret went picking.
I found a real good hiding place for lots and lots of cans. So,
Ooh.
Margaret went picking and Peg sat at the table and had donuts. So,
Okay. All right.
I took like 62 from the Clinton line
Yeah.
in. I can't remember how far I got before I ended up filling up like 8 or 9 bags, but
Yeah.
We got a lot done out there. I went
Yep,
Yeah.
with Bob Blair, who's watching today too.
that is correct.
A lot of fun.
All right, yeah, so last year, I think he did the most streets.
Yeah, I think we gave him an award, didn't we?
We
Yes.
did, well, we gave him a Conservation Commission sweat jacket. Unfortunately, it was too small, so he donated it back to the Conservation Commission to be used for this year. So, right. So maybe we could come up with a different award if he, does all the streets that he usually does. Right.
Mhm.
We'll get him
Anyway,
his own picky stick. There
Right.
you go.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's an idea.
Mhm.
Right.
A diploma.
All right. So Liz, you and I can work and with Lawrence and coming up with a poster and a flyer and a message to put out on Facebook and
Yeah,
Yep.
and I'll come to your next conservation meeting. It's not this week, it's next week, correct?
next week. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll come and then we can talk about anything there and be good to go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we should be able to pull a flyer together by then.
Mhm.
And I just want to say thank you, Louise. This is, it's such a good thing for the town. I like picking up trash. Things look better. Everybody works together.
Mm-hmm.
Donuts and I just think everything's positive about this. So thank you, Louise, for again taking the lead on this.
Absolutely.
It's a
Thank
great
you.
event.
Yeah, well, I want to say thank you for having the support of, town officers and town groups like the police, fire department, and the highway department. It's just, it makes it so much easier.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Well, we appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Perfect.
Well run
Okay.
thing.
Thank
Yeah.
you, ladies. We'll see you in a
Thank
couple
you.
weeks.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See you
Take care.
soon, Louise.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye. Okay. We'll move on to the town administrator report.
Okay. Couple new updates on COVID and vaccinations. Starting March 11th, so later this week, K through 12 educators, childcare workers, and K through 12 school staff are all going to be eligible to start receiving or start making their vaccination appointments. They'll be joining the currently eligible groups. So everyone 65 and older, and individuals with 2 or more medical conditions, and anyone who's remaining from the phase 1 groups. So there's even going to be more demand on vaccines now. From what I understand, DPH is going to try to reserve certain days at mass vaccination sites for the K through 12 staff and the child care workers to try to get them all in on certain days. Their DPH is also talking about launching a call center for in-home vaccination deliveries. This is specifically for homebound residents, and it's expected to launch on March 22nd. The call center, there's going to be a soft launch of this program starting on March 15th. And if we are able to gather the names and contact information for some of our homebound seniors who have not received their vaccinations yet, we could provide this to the state, and the state could actually proactively reach out to these homebound residents. So I know Bob Blair has been working on this. He's communicated with Eloise, Victoria's involved. So we're all trying to put our heads together and get some sort of list together so we can get the state maybe moving on that for us. Jumping down to HR benefits, the fire EMS contract. We do have a date now for a kickoff meeting with the fire union's team. That kickoff meeting will involve signing ground rules only. So the kickoff meeting is really just a very basic meeting, introductions and setting ground rules. Police union has also reached out and they've requested a couple of dates from us as well. So we'll be scheduling a kickoff meeting with them too. I think earlier today, and I hope I didn't do this twice, like on Friday and then today, but I sent board members a list of the of reviewed and revised town proposals from Labor Council. So I ask that the board members please just review them, send me any comments directly, because we are really finalizing these now. So we're getting down to the nitty gritty. So if you could do that before the end of this week, that would be wonderful. Down to COVID expense tracking reporting. On Friday, I submitted the fourth quarter calendar year 2020 expense report for the coronavirus relief fund spending. That was about $14,000 in expended coronavirus relief funds. The latest from FEMA is that they have increased reimbursements for eligible expenses to 100%. But at the same time, they've reduced eligible reimbursement categories. So they're giving on one hand and taking away on the other, and they're still developing their policies, overseeing all of that. The Linden Street parking lot resurfacing IFB, I had hoped to get out an addendum today. It's now moved to tomorrow. I'll be getting an addendum out that's going to clarify a few different things: OSHA certification, the project area, definition of the project area, and wetlands protection. So measures the contract will have to take. As of Friday, we had already gotten requests from 22 vendors, so there definitely is interest in the project. My hope is that, number one, bids will come in under budget or within budget, and number two, that we can assure that the project will be completed by June 30th, because that's when the grant funds go away. The next is grants. Just a reminder, and I'm going to send a reminder tomorrow to department, board, and committee stakeholders that this Thursday, March 11th at 4:30 p.m. is our meeting with CMRPC to talk about Community One Stop for Growth and putting together an expression of interest from the town that we can submit to the state and have further discussions with the state on for various economic development grant opportunities. And then cybersecurity training program. I don't know if it was Scott's. I think one of you asked to see the report card or the final participation in the cybersecurity program that we had last year. So in tonight's agenda folder, I uploaded the report card from round 1 of cybersecurity. We were about average as far as participation. Yep. We were above average in the final cyber strength assessment. Tomorrow morning at our department heads meeting, the municipal and schools IT technology director from the state is going to be joining us to talk about the program and how important it is. And tomorrow I'll be sending out a blanket email to everyone on the town's email, anybody who uses a town email address, to let them know that they are participants in the program by virtue of the fact that they have a town email. So there were 95 of us.
Wow.
That includes us, right?
That includes the board, yes. Every member of the board, yeah. I say 95, but some of them, we have an alarm system on, yep. So, maybe participation of about 80. So, okay, and then special legislation update. This is another thing that's just changing rapidly. Got an email today from the governor's office and another email from Representative Kilcoyne. Governor's going to be signing the legislation this week. It's going back in, and hopefully,
Nice.
Hopefully they can expedite it. So that was very exciting to hear that. And I had hoped tonight, and I know it's on the agenda, or I think it is, I had hoped to have a draft lease agreement to you on the school district, and I'm just not done with that yet. I'm working on it. And then Bullard House weatherization. The deadline for the quote has been extended to, it's not even a quote, it's a written estimate, has been extended to this Friday. March 12th. But I did learn today that the cost for heating the Bullard House actually exceeded the cost for heating the 1870 town hall this winter. So I'm just going to send another reminder and ask please to just keep the heat set at 50 or 50, and that way we'll try to minimize the amount of oil being burned there. And that's about it. The Sennies have requested another meeting again with a subset of the River Bridge working group on negotiating modifications. However, we're still gathering data, cost data, and other information that we need to be able to go into the negotiations in an educated way. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Questions for Margaret? Anybody?
Margaret, I have the disc from Marty Miller of the photographs he took of town buildings.
Yes.
I don't know where we want to put that. I have my thoughts, but I'm not the one who is in those folders and files every day. If you could, you don't have to do it off the top of your head now, but send me an email sometime this week about where you want me to put it, and I'll upload those photos to that site. There are some interior and some exterior, and since there's some interiors, there are vehicles inside some of these buildings that are not on the list of vehicles that we get in the town report. And so I might want to learn more about them. They tend to be fire vehicles, so I didn't think asking Dave about them was the most appropriate today, but
Okay.
we might want to find out about those vehicles and what their use is.
Yeah.
There's two old fire trucks inside the very old firehouse at West Street, and there's only one 1946 Ford Mustang on the highway, on the fire department list of vehicles. And so I don't know which one of the two is that 46 fire truck and what the other one is and what the conditions of those two vehicles are.
Very good question.
And just for this, I have a meeting with Richard Smith this week, who also toured with Marty when they took the pictures, as the architect was on the capital planning committee at the time. And I'm going to be able to pick his brain this week and get his notes so that I'll be able to add that to what capital planning already has.
Good. All right. So I will send you an email with a link to the most appropriate drive.
Yep.
We'll match it up with probably the building, the history cards, the assessor's cards and stuff. Okay.
Yep.
All right. We'll do that.
Margaret, quick question. I didn't see it in your report. Forgive me if I just scrolling and I can't find it. The letter that we sent to Marlboro last week, has there been any updates on that?
I actually have to follow up on that to see
Okay.
if it's been sent out.
Okay.
That was a question I asked, but I will, if it's been sent out, we'll send it out again. We'll send it out again. Doesn't hurt to get it twice, right?
Okay. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to old business and the annual town meeting preparation.
Okay. Once again, I have, well, there are a couple of things. I'm wondering the board's thoughts on town meeting date. What are you thinking? I was just on the finance committee meeting before this, and someone asked if the board's still planning on having town meeting for May 3rd, if you intend to have it on May 3rd, or would the board prefer to postpone it a couple of weeks to give the weather a chance to improve a bit? Now's the window, where you could actually make that decision before the warrant is posted. So
yeah, I had actually given some thought to the fact that, I mean, things sound like they're getting better too, or they may get better in the next couple of months, but I always play things safe. So I guess I would think about pushing it out.
So Margaret, what do you know offhand? And it's okay if you don't. Do you know the capacity of the school if COVID restrictions stay the same of 6 feet apart? How many you could put in the gym?
I thought Barry said 90 to 100 in the gym. I have to say I'd be much more comfortable having it outside again. But I think Barry actually had measured it out before the decision was made to have it outside last year. So
Yeah.
he probably has better numbers.
Well, because the problem is that if you put it to school and if the gym can only hold 90 and what do we average? 300 or so that show up, that means you'd have to put them in what,
Cafeteria.
the calf, and then who's gonna do the cleaning? And then if somebody needs a question and they're in the calf, how do you signal back to the main room to say, Sally residents coming up for a question and can everybody hear it? So logistics might get
Yeah.
iffy.
I thought it worked out pretty well last year.
No, but I'm
I
saying
think-
if we do it like in the school.
Right. I
Right.
mean, I would
Right out.
still kind of go for doing it outside.
I would too. I'd much prefer to be out.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that there is, the national mantra is that anyone who really wants to get the vaccine should be able to have it by the end of May. So if we did a June town meeting, like early June town meeting, everyone who really wanted to get it should be able to get it by then, which would allow us potentially to use the school and not necessarily have the fears of social distancing or content or the health of our residents.
I thought it was June or July. I didn't think it was May.
It moves. It
Yeah.
was May,
It
it
was
was
still-
August, I think,
We have
with
to
when
have to
J
get
and
the
J came out,
vaccines.
it moved back, so.
So anyway, I wanted to put it out there because now's the time to be thinking about what you might want to do, how you might want to plan this out. I mean, clearly we understand what the logistics require for an outdoor town meeting. Going back inside the gym would also be easy if we have to spread out over multiple rooms. I actually think the town has done that before in the past too, correct? You've spread out into other rooms. So we'd have to find out what availability is at the school to have it indoors. So and also our COVID funds will allow the purchase of town meeting remote handheld devices, where you could actually have like a drive-in town meeting, or you could use them at an outdoor town meeting. I've had many conversations with Barry about this. He wants to order these things so people can actually just press a yes or no button. The results will tally up on a monitor immediately without having to count, things like that. So those could be used for a different, an array of
Those might be even great to use even when it's not COVID, because it saves us from like, it's closed, so Barry has to call 4 people up and deputize them and have the hand counts. It gets rid of potentially the need for secret ballots.
Yep.
So a lot of things that slow down town meeting. And it gets away from that intimidation when you have to raise your hand. It's like, okay, I know my neighbors want to vote yes. I really want to vote no, but I don't want to, tell my
Yeah.
neighbors I'm planning on voting no. And so I think those are good. If we looked at Monday, June 14th for town meeting, and postponed to then, I think the weather would be decent then. I think we could plan for outdoors with I would do a weather backup of indoors, thinking that by mid-June, a lot of people will be vaccinated at that point. And so we could still plan it outdoors, but if there's a deluge or something, we could still hold the meeting. And I keep meaning to post to start polling more people about whether or not a 1-day or 2-day town meeting. There's a lot of people who like 1 day, but there's also a lot of people who, don't like the last 10 articles get squozen together at 5 minutes each. When those tend to be more long-reaching impacts of bylaw changes and zoning changes and other stuff that really, I feel bad they get the short end every now and then, it feels like.
Well,
What do you?
I don't have a strong preference. The sooner we could have it in June, the better, but I understand the whole vaccination issue. So,
Yep.
That's kind of a roll of the dice at this point.
Okay, is that a good date for you too, Peg? Tentatively?
If I'm still here.
Oh,
Well, you will be because the election is the week after town meeting. And so if we delay town meeting, we're also delaying the election, right?
I don't think so.
No.
And Eloise is,
Eloise has,
Oh, is she?
Eloise
Yeah.
is here, yeah. I think.
because the
Eloise
last
is.
article of the town meeting is to hold the town election.
Hi, I went to a webinar the other day and Lauren Goldberg said the election goes on. Last year was an aberration.
okay.
Okay,
Bylaw says it's a certain date. It has to be a certain date. I have
okay.
to, I am waiting for them to issue the webinar so I can hear it again.
Eloise, that's specifically the election, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She said the selectmen have to talk with the moderator for town meeting, but then they asked her that 2 or 3 different times, and she said, an election once called is it. And if your bylaw says it's on such and such a date, that's what it is. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
thank you,
Eloise.
Thanks, Eloise.
So in the event that I'm still here, yes, absolutely, outside we go.
And do you think the date looks decent for June, or do you want to still try to pull it off in May?
No, I'd rather go to June. I mean, the 1 or 2 days, I'm just looking at the citizen petitions. I don't think those are gonna be a quickie. I think there's gonna be lots of chatter on those.
I think the wetlands bylaw
Yeah.
is long and nuanced
Yep.
and
There's gonna be lots of chatter on that, yeah.
So it's probably going to be a 2-night event then.
Probably.
So
if we're thinking it's 2-night, I like the idea that we declare it a 2-night early on and we
Yeah.
set we will not go beyond article, when we look at the full list of articles, beyond article, let's say 23 on night 1. And there's a chance we don't get as far as article 23, but if we get to 23 at 9:30 at night, we
We're done.
stop. So the people who are really excited about 24 know
Yeah.
that really, if they don't care about some of the stuff, there's a lot of people who are going to care about both, and a lot of people like me
Yeah.
who would go to both, even if I wasn't on the select board. But there are some people who are going to be really into the citizen petitions who don't care at all about whether or not we put a new roof on town offices.
right, I agree.
So you're looking at 2 consecutive nights then, June 14th and 15th?
That works for me.
Or, I mean, we're gonna have to have a backup. There's
Yep.
a rain date, obviously, but.
Yep.
Okay, all right, so we.
And I think this is still tentative because we still need to run it by the moderator
Yep.
and the schools. Because I don't have kids, I don't know when does school get out? Because once school is out, that building is significantly more available, I think.
Well,
Right.
they'll probably be in school the 14th. I don't think they've ever gotten out that early.
Right.
Yeah, and again, I prefer not to bump up against the end of the fiscal year. That makes
Right.
it really difficult.
Yep. Right. So I think if that 14th is difficult for some reason, I think I'm more inclined to go to the 7th than the 21st.
Yeah, we could check a couple of dates with the school.
Yep.
Okay, I'll talk with the school and I'll talk with the moderator. And the clerk who's hearing this right now, but we'll all run through it.
Yeah. No, I do, I do agree with Scott. I like the little handheld things. I've been approached by multiple folks in towns for those very reasons. I don't agree with it, but I don't want to be the person who stands up and says no, so
Right.
it's like, come to a vote.
Right.
So that would be
Yeah.
awesome
Right.
just to go.
And
Yeah.
likely we'll go from a bunch of unanimous consents to a bunch of which were 180 to 65,
Yeah.
But that's still good.
And you'll see instantaneous results on the monitors. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. All right. Thank you for the date options. I'll get those taken. Now, on the warrant itself, I had only made a certain amount of progress by Friday, but I wanted to run a couple of things by you. First, Articles 1 and 2 for the current fiscal year, unpaid bills of prior fiscal years, Chief is okay with removing that, so that will be removed. And then the payment of snow and ice deficit spending, I outlined the latest spending in the comment box next to that article, and as Dave said, there is still money remaining in the budget line, so we're not significantly overspent, and an end of year appropriation transfer is likely going to be fine for that one. So I'm recommending that both of those be pulled.
Nice.
Oh,
See, we'll get down to one night yet.
It's going to get harder though. These are the low hanging.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Let's see. Dennis, this is just for your review. On Dennis's requested article for the tax collection software, he did resubmit a summary. That's one abbreviated paragraph.
Thank you, Dennis.
I moved, based on the board's votes last week, I moved the capital budget up to fiscal year 2021, the first section of the warrant, and I am going to have to renumber all of the following articles. I've got a couple more stars here, I know. Welcome to Berlin roadside signs. I am going to recommend placement of this article on the warrant, pending the Economic Development Committee's recommendation. I know we're waiting on that. The idea of this particular article for the Welcome to Berlin roadside signs is that the town pay a small portion of the cost for, actually a third of the cost of 3 roadside signs, and the EDC is going to ask for donations from local businesses as a match on that article. The movable solar powered radar speed limit signs, I know that Chief is actively requesting a demo model from vendors. On the draft warrant, I'm increasing the amount to $12,000 in the draft article. And that may again change. However, Chief and I have talked about possible grant opportunities to fund one of these signs. So we may be able to, just use local funds for 3 of the signs, and then add a grant funded sign to the grouping. I know that I'm going to be recommending the parking enforcement bylaws, but I'm just not prepared to, to present that recommendation yet. And I think that's all I have for this week. I really haven't made as much progress on this as I'd like. So, all right, so I'll clean it up. I'll continue to clean it up. And you were also supposed to, according to your calendar, tonight would have been the first night to start reviewing draft motions. I have started a list of draft motions, but I don't have it presented tonight, obviously.
I think, because I think the remainder of the cleanup of the town meeting warrant is not huge. I mean, it's still a long document.
It's not huge.
no, I thought it looked pretty manageable when I
Yep.
looked at it again today. Almost as if, what is it, Article 19 is the budget? Would it be possible to do all of those before it in one vote?
All of what? All of which ones before
All
it?
the warrant articles before the budget.
And have the budget be last?
And no, up to the way you have them listed.
I see.
I'd still want the capital as its own motion.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think there are some groupings that make it go relatively fast, because a lot of the ones prior to the budget, you're right, Chris, are sort of standard ones.
I see. Okay. I think I understand.
Unless either one of you or Margaret thinks that, that they should be, or maybe even the moderator would say, no, this one needs to be voted separately.
Are we missing any town reports?
I have to check.
Because we were pretty close before, because does Article 16 even need to exist? if we have all the reports already, there's no reason to have a motion to bring in missing reports. It'd likely get passed over.
Yeah.
Scott,
There was only one last
Oh,
year.
I hear Eloise again.
Yes.
There's always, okay.
you don't have a lot of mine reports. But Travis and I, since last Thursday, we've been going through my new computer, which I'm grateful, but it kept shutting me off, and I had to talk to him before I could go on any particular day. And there was a problem with my numbers. I couldn't put numbers on my computer.
Oh, wow.
But he thinks it's done, so tomorrow will be my first day with the brand new computer, hopefully done, and that's the first thing on my agenda.
Well, I figured even if we're missing some, that by the time we actually have to finalize this warrant, the list will even be smaller.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to actually go in. Oh, let me make a note for myself here. I know mine isn't completely finished yet either. It's in process. Okay, so I'll go into the drive. Lori has done a spectacular job with the layout. That's not going to take any time at all. So once we have them gathered, we should be good.
So I have a question. If we are thinking about potentially postponing until June, are we still aiming towards our April 28th date to mail, US mail these out to folks in town? Was that the date?
I would love to.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
I
Alright,
would
so that
too.
date-
Town had
The
a-
sooner the better.
Okay.
I was gonna say, if the town had a month to really read the reports and
Do
have all
their
our little
homework.
coffee chats and sidewalk talks and other stuff about the general, because I think the more there's conversation in town, the more we know what's going to happen sort of
Yeah.
on the floor. And, you know, the original presentations could answer some of the questions that have come up.
Okay.
Yep, that's true.
And we don't want to get too much in the habit of sending them out late just because town
Correct,
meeting has to be
because we
delayed
can,
due to
yeah.
COVID. Right?
Yeah, and that was always the
Right.
big complaint in town is that, you know, the town meeting was on Monday and they arrived in everyone's mailbox on Saturday. It was like, So, no, this would be awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Lisa is actually going to be in helping out for a few weeks, and I think I might be able to ask her to work on that a bit. So, okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on the warrant itself, or?
No, I thought it looked
Looks
good.
good.
Okay, then we are making progress.
It might be long, but I think it's long because there's just a lot of pages, not a lot of,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of articles.
Well, and again, considering we rated an abbreviated town meeting last year, we should
Yeah.
expect this year's meeting will be bigger and longer because there's a bunch of stuff we just skipped last year. We didn't have a special town meeting, you know, and so there's a backlog.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Okay. Well, shall we move on?
Indeed.
Okay, we'll talk about the wheat assessment budget line.
Okay, I sent a recommendation to the board on Friday with just a few, they're recommending a possible measure to try to reach some of Berlin residents who are in need. And I thought maybe a good first step would be to provide or to send out a resource guide for Berlin residents, for social service agencies and programs in the region, to make it easier for residents to reach out. Now, my recommendation indicated that $4,000 could be moved from the select board's expense line. However, I looked at it later and I thought, maybe 3,000. I mean, that's really cutting the line in half, not allowing for much, flexibility in the board's line after. But the idea is the same. We, lacking the staff capacity to staff a community outreach department or what have you, you know, we could utilize our staffing and financial resources to provide some assistance in this way as a start.
I am fine being even less specific at this point in time. I don't feel the number has to come out of the select board expense line item. Lines go up and down across the board. We could say I think if we renamed the line, and I like the name Community Social Services, I think that does cover sort of a broad spectrum of the things we're talking about. I think it also gets us away from naming a specific organization, because I don't think that line has to go to that organization. It does because they do great work, and the town has supported them for a while. I think if we up it by $3,000 and rename it, with the idea that the board will continue to work on a way to use or spend those funds, and it could be a resource guide, it could be finding a nonprofit to contract with. It could be by the end of fiscal year 22, we don't spend all of it, or we do spend all of it, and we need more in the following year. But I'm fine with renaming it and adding $3,000 to it.
Okay.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously, Margaret, I mean, I'm not going to speak for Scott and Chris, but if there's anything that I can do to help move that along, people to talk to, I know that you've got your plate rather slightly filled. Slightly, just
It's a platter. It's a
yeah,
platter.
it's a platter. It's the ever-growing,
entire
it's the
platter.
ever-growing Thanksgiving platter.
Right, which is also why I think if we just rename it and add money to it, that we don't have to do anything right now. We can wait to summer
Yeah.
to do a lot more on it.
Okay.
And there are examples of resource guides on other municipal websites that we could pull from. So, okay, good. So that takes care of that. So that'll be reflected in my recommendation on budget stuff tonight.
Okay.
Now, speaking of budget, I guess we need to decide whether or not we continue in FY22 with a contingency line item, or if there's a preference to just take those funds, add them to the reserve fund, and just go back to the reserve fund. The reason that the team suggested the contingency line item, or that we established it in FY21, because it firmly requires the select board and finance committee's consent to spend money, whereas the reserve fund is statutorily only under the finance committee's jurisdiction. So it only requires a sign off of the finance committee. But then I also learned that it's been a courtesy given to the select board to sign off in the past on reserve fund transfers. So I'm going to leave it to the board and FinCom to decide. So either one works, as long as we have that bucket of funds that we may need to be able to tap.
So has the finance committee had any reserve funds transfers?
No, none this year yet. No.
Or last year?
Last year, yes. Last year, they had to replace the plastics compactor at the transfer station, and there were a few other things as well. And the year prior to that, I believe they fully spent the reserve fund on unanticipated expenses. So it's gone back and forth.
And are you the one who is signing off on our behalf then on those transfers?
There have
aren't
been
any.
no transfers.
No, I mean like last year.
I didn't sign off last year on the transfer request.
I don't remember signing off either. So
Okay.
I don't,
All right.
I mean, I could be wrong.
Right. I mean, in my years on FinCom, we always had to get select board approval on reserve fund transfers. As a matter of fact, our year-end meeting was usually FinCom and select board in June, so that we could do all the last minute ones all in one swoop and make sure everything balances and ties out.
The end of year appropriation transfers absolutely do require both the approval of the board and FinCom, but the reserve fund is different. It only requires statutorily, it only requires FinCom. So
Right. Although again, in 10 years on FinCom, every reserve fund transfer had board approval as a motion and signatures.
I think
All
that-
board members, all select board members and all FinCon members physically signed every transfer from the reserve fund.
Right, I agree. I just don't know whether that's the process anymore. I mean, I think I'd like to be able to see these things and sign off on them for the contingency fund. Because there's specifics to what it can be used for. And the reserve fund transfers don't necessarily fall, the things that use that money for doesn't necessarily fall into the contingency fund description.
The contingency fund does have one of the categories in particular are anticipated expenses, which which is a little different. So, board have a preference? I know FinCom is going to be, FinCom will be meeting on Wednesday night, and I'll be presenting the same thing to them. If the board would like to wait to hear what FinCom has to say, we can do that and kind of use them, their feedback as a guide, if you'd like.
I think at the end of the day, it's going to be up to Peg. I don't think my mind will be changed. I think every time we create a new line item, every time we create a new fund that is more accounting, that is more tracking, that's more likely for something to get lost. I don't like every one of these thousands of stabilization funds we're creating. I don't like extra lines that are unnecessary in the bill. But at the end of the day, we'll do, if it's a 2-to-1 vote against me, we move on after that. I'll be fine with it.
Well, it's not really that I'm, if we had some kind of an agreement with FinCom that we still sign off on all the transfers, I don't have a problem with using just the reserve fund, instead of contingency, but I don't think that that's not really the case, I guess, statutorily.
Statutorily, it's not. We could amend the form. We could, and we could still have it as a courtesy, but ultimately the sign off belongs with FinCom. So
when did that form change? The form used to have select board and FinCom signatures on it. I was on FinCom for 10 years. I've gone to dozens of select board meetings that were necessary.
June's raising her hand.
Okay.
Hi, June.
Hello. Can you hear me? I was having a problem with my mic earlier. Yeah, right now, the way that it is, the form has not changed, other than I believe we've added Margaret's signature on one of them. It's always gone to the selectmen as long as the selectmen were meeting, usually at the end of the year. The only time that we've had it, so Finance Committee was the only one who signed, was if due to the end of the year process, the selectmen did not have a meeting. If they were on their every other week schedule, if they did not have a meeting, then it went directly to Finance Committee. But normally those would be something like the electric bill or street lights or something along that lines. It was never anything major that really you both should have seen. But that was only, I think, once or twice in 20 years or something that we've done that, but it's always gone usually to the selectmen first, just as a courtesy.
Okay, so while you're there, June.
Yep.
The finance team, and what is their feeling, or what is your feeling as part of the finance team
On the contingency?
on having a contingency fund?
Well, personally, I think it's a great idea to have it as a contingency, just so that way there is no question that both of you need to see it, both finance and selectmen. If, like I said, the law says that it's just the Finance Committee that need to sign off on it, but we've always done it here in town for 30 years, always had the selectmen sign off first and then go to Finance Committee.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's just more of a one where the reserve fund is supposed to be for unforeseen or extraordinary items versus a lot of the things that we were putting in the contingency.
Right.
I'll put it this way. Technically speaking, if you guys settle on union contracts before town meeting, you could flip some money around. And then that part of it wouldn't need to be there. Versus, you really per se don't want to show a hand at this
Mhm.
point in time to, stick money in the actual line items.
Right.
And so, we're kind of foreseeing it. We know there's going to be money that's going to need to go out. I mean, could you all decide that you want to just add it all into reserve fund? Yeah, you could. I mean, you guys are the selectmen, so that's up to you.
Yeah, but June, what pain does that cause for you? I mean, that's nice, through the
Additional
way.
pay, none.
Okay,
Does it take me an extra couple of seconds to add a line, but the line item per se has already been created. So all it's a matter of plugging in one extra number when I'm posting. So.
Okay. Does that help, Scott or Peg?
well, it does, but I don't want to make a decision, in a bucket. I would rather truly get Stan and Mary's and everybody else's input from FinCom. I mean, it could turn into a 5-minute discussion. It could be FinCom come to selectmen on Monday, blah, blah, blah. And, let's talk about it.
Well, at least Margaret could share our concerns and see whether
Right.
she could get a feeling, get an opinion from finance
Yeah.
about the contingency fund.
We can do that. And we can
I
hold-
like nice and tidy, kind of like Scott. I don't want to sit here as I'm sitting going, scrolling. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? I'd rather have, Margaret say, go to line 45 and everything's there. Type, as long as it doesn't cause extra pain for June and she's able to track everything and FinCom is able to say, here's my bucket of money and we need to spend XYZ because here's an extraordinary item, something blue, we need a new heater for the building, or, it's a contingency. So I personally would just like to hear FinCom and then we can, revisit on Monday.
That's fine. That's fine with
Fin-
me.
Okay, FinCom had a brief discussion last week, so I'm sure that they'll be able to further discuss it. Okay, so that's that. And now, recommendations on budget lines. Here we go. I'm going to give you line numbers.
Yeah, that's nice, Margaret. As soon as I said I can't keep up with you with line numbers, you're like, and here's the line number.
I will give you the line number, the account name, and the amount that I'm recommending and where that amount comes from. How's that?
All right, I'm ready.
So under public safety, lines 49 and 50, wages full-time, wages part-time. I am recommending that they be level funded from FY21, pending the outcome of the collective bargaining agreement. Same thing with line items 52, 53, 54. We've got a contract in there that needs to be negotiated and a collective bargaining agreement that needs to be negotiated. So I'm recommending level funding. On the full-time wages, there is a slight decrease due to change in personnel, but I'm recommending that be level funded at the FY22 requested amount. The next one, lines 74 and 75, snow and ice, full-time, overtime, and part-time wages. This account shows a slight increase of $1,005. That's the part-time wages line, whereas the full-time wages line shows a reduction of $547 because of the new personnel coming in at lower rates. So I'm recommending full-time overtime at $35,881 and part-time wages at $15,118. On cemetery expenses, I am recommending that the $28,240 requested be decreased by $16,000, leaving $12,240 as my recommended amount. That's
Sorry, where? Line 81?
That is line, oh, I'm sorry, yes, line 81.
But it's
And
not in
that's
there.
16, yep, and that's Yep, that's line 81, cemetery expenses.
So going from
And that's-
28,240 to 16,240.
Yep, so it'd be $12,240. And I'm recommending that that amount, the $16,000, be added to line 72, highway wages part-time. So an added $16,000, making that total $30,531.
Good.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. The next one is line 92, community social service, weed assessment, change the name to community social services. Add 3,000 from the select board's expense line, bringing this total to $7,000. And I'm sorry, I'm jumping back now because I have to go back to the select board expense line. Reducing the select board expense line by $3,000, revising that recommendation to $5,250. Okay. Onward and upward. Next one. Debt and interest. Dennis has confirmed that the town is able to make its last two water pollution abatement trust loan payments, the final 2 years of payments in FY22. That is the loan fund that provided for Title V improvements for residents, and they were able to borrow from this fund. The fund is now being closed out. There's no more borrowing from it. So this is a principal only amount. This loan was interest free. So this under line 101 principal, the amount would be increased to $194,308. So that's an increase of $2,154 from what I previously recommended. The revenues from WPAT are also increased by the same amount, so it's a direct offset. Okay. The next one, line 103, Assabet Regional Housing Consortium. Well, I have not gotten the actual budget request from planning. I have gotten an indication from planning that they will recommend $12,000 to be funded from the affordable housing account for FY22. This line is likely to be temporary because in future fiscal years, it would be the CPA affordable housing funds that fund this assessment to the Regional Housing Consortium. So I am recommending that the $12,000 be put in here, and I've also accounted for that on the revenue sheet. Under Chapter 32B, health insurance, line 113, I am recommending the amount that Dennis submitted, $665,000. It's a reduction from FY21 of $38,357. The town is going to be given a 1-month premium holiday in FY22, meaning no premium payments, but in FY23 that goes away. So I don't think it's advisable to reduce the line this year by the premium holiday just to increase it again next year.
I agree. Good call.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Line 108, Tahanto Assessment.
Oh, the Tahanto Assessment. That is still being held. I think did I note that held? Yes,
you did, but you also
sent
you also sent the response from the schools.
I did. And that's what Finance Committee was meeting tonight about, and I don't know the outcome of their meeting, so I'm just going to ask to hold that until I hear back from FinCom. I wasn't able to stay till the end, so I don't know what the outcome is. I know they were discussing tonight the possibility of asking for a reduction of a certain number, but they were going through all the different considerations. So.
And then you've noted line 116 Medicare for tonight as well. Have we not voted on that one previously?
Oh, no, I just didn't highlight it. Thank you.
That's fine.
We still have to hold that temporarily because I need to make sure that Dennis has actually accounted for the COLAs in this number and that the funds will be sufficient. So I'll ask to hold that just one more week and you can take care of that next week, hopefully.
So if I look that Medicare and Tahanto are the two remaining
two.
line items,
That would be, and
Then
the contingency fund
And then
reserve.
fire.
a contingency fund.
Yep.
All
So
right.
after today's vote, we have just 3 lines left to do, which shouldn't take us a ton of time at next week's meeting.
Let's hope not, right?
All right.
So I
That's
would
really
ask the
not
board-
bad, Margaret. I mean, if we go from last year to this year proposed budget, everything stays exactly the same, that, we've decreased the overall town budget. I mean,
Yeah,
a smidge, but you know what?
yeah,
People have always been like, where are my taxes going? And my taxes are too high.
Right.
It'd be nice to stand up and say, with the world imploding, the town has been able to, and at the end of the day, we're saving, round math, almost 80 grand.
yeah. I think, and
Yes.
to be fair and totally transparent, last year we did fund the contingency line at a much higher amount.
Yeah.
And that was from free cash, and because we just had no idea what COVID was going to bring.
Mhm.
So, to be fair and transparent, a lot of that has to do with that, but at the same time, I think we've exercised some fiscal
Right.
constraint. here.
I think this is a great budget, even if we keep the 3 lines we've not voted on yet at the numbers or
Yeah.
near the numbers they're at. It's still a great budget. You have to just be careful that although there's some correlation, that the tax rate and the town budget, can operate independently, because if the values of properties in town go
Yeah.
down substantially, taxes would still go up even if the amount we're spending go down. And we have other revenue sources, like, what the state gives us
Mhm.
can affect some of these things as well.
Exactly.
But keeping this number, I mean, obviously their taxes will be lower because this number is lower, because if this number was $300,000 higher, their taxes clearly would be higher. So
Right.
it is good. It is a nice budget. I think FinCom's done a good job.
Yeah,
And,
FinCom's done a good, Margaret too, for
Yep,
kind of
yep.
holding departments to, their literal feet
Yep.
to the fire too, to, always look for a
Absolutely.
plan B and not just say, I want $1 bazillion, show me, sorry, you get $1.50. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Margaret. You've done a great job on the budget too.
Woo woo.
Yes.
Thank
Now,
you,
Margaret, can you
team, and
come
thank
find
you.
the $10 in my checkbook that I seem to be off? Just saying.
Get it to a penny, a penny. It's a penny.
That's what I say too.
No.
A
Do a
penny?
penny. Software
It's
helps
a
with that all the time.
That last penny is the thing that'll drive you nuts.
It is.
That's why I go 10. I got lots of room. Oh,
Right.
good.
If you're off by a number divisible by 9, it's a transposition. What I learned doing when I did everything about that by hand. Transpositions were big things.
Oh, they are.
So do I hear a motion to approve the recommendation for this evening?
Yes. So moved.
And
Dennis.
a second, thank you.
Mhm.
And we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
all, and I'll update the spreadsheet.
All right. Well, I believe we covered the new
Right.
business, and we're gonna wait on the Berlin Memorial lease
Mhm.
agreement.
I'll be working on that draft.
Okay. So board questions and comments.
I'll go last.
You are.
Um,
Go ahead, Scott.
so, in-person select board meetings. Is there legally an option where the group of us are in one physical place, but we still provide Zoom access for the members of the public, so that the number of people in the building are still small, but we still meet all of our open meeting stuff and people can still participate?
There's nothing legally that prevents that.
Okay. I don't have a date in mind. I just, and frankly, obviously meeting at home saves me some driving time and prepare time, and but that at some point I'd like to actually be in a room with fellow select board members. It's
And sit at the big table. Mm-hmm.
sit at the big table,
Sit at the big girl table. Absolutely.
bring my cushion with me instead of just having it at my home. And so at some point, and not in a rush, but start the conversation about when would we do a sort of, lacking a better term, a hybrid model, or when we might start thinking about having meetings like we used to. Obviously, I don't think we should have meetings like we used to until at least we've opened up town offices, because it makes no sense to have our meetings there and not allow others to have meetings, or have the building open as a whole.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the only thing is, I feel a little silly if we can't have an audience, to have our meetings in the building. That's I think that's how I feel about it.
And I would like to think that even if we had an audience and in the meeting, that we might still find a way to do things on Zoom, so that for residents who might want to participate, have one item on the agenda that they're important about, but have like, child care issues or parental care issues, or just otherwise, participate remotely. I would love to see if there's a way to make that happen. There might be
No
some
question.
technological challenges.
Or even
Zoom has
live
I'm sorry, go
live
ahead.
cable. Why can't we have live cable? We used to have live cable.
I don't know. I mean, it's been so long since we even had the camera in the room, This Zoom has opened up a whole new world, and that I think can expand the possibilities.
Because I go back to thinking about those working families, those families who have a bunch of kids, the families that only have 10 minutes. I think, although we're not seeing, 1,000 people joining this meeting, but that for some residents to just have it on in the background to listen to what we're talking about while they're washing dishes and doing other things might allow some more civic involvement and some more education about what's going on in town and what we do. I think would be a great thing.
And it was something that I had brought up last year too, actually before COVID took over the world, was, Facebook Live. There were so many other towns that were doing Facebook Live, and it, I had reached out. I think it was it Stowe? I, again, pegged the stealer of items in other people's newspapers, where all you really needed was someone to basically, have a tablet or something, or a computer, and they would get the questions coming in, and they would just be like, excuse me, question from blah, blah, blah. So, in the world, if Zoom ever goes away completely, I think the cost to do Facebook Live is probably minimal, and or if cable is able to hardwire the rooms.
Right. I think we have the capabilities. I remember being on school committee and having live meetings in the municipal building. So I don't understand why we can't do that now.
Well, we can ask.
Yep.
But anyway,
I'll attend a cable access commission meeting and I'll ask.
There you go.
Last week we had correspondence from someone whose name is escaping me about the exit ramp traffic stop stuff, where at Gates Pond, where it irritated me more after the meeting as I reflect on it, that we sort of said, we don't have control over that road, and therefore we sort of passed on it. And I think that we should sometimes take actions, even if we can't make the final say, because like if we refer this like to the traffic advisory committee, if they looked it over and thought that it made sense, even if it's just, we sign on a letter that resident puts together to the Department of Transportation to say we would like a stop sign, it definitely carries more weight if there's a select board motion behind it and a traffic advisory commission letter behind it. And so I think sometimes even when we can't make the final decision, we can't determine the outcome, there are definitely things we can do to support things in town where the things that mean things to folks. I don't think we necessarily have to support everything that comes for us, but I think there are times, I think all three of us are very sympathetic to the issue there. And I think there's more that we could have done. And I'd like Margaret, if there's a way that I could get the feedback, or we could get the feedback from the Traffic Advisory Commission on that stop, and potentially support whatever they think is the best way to control things there.
Maybe a communication with MassDOT's in order. Peg, did you get any additional information from that resident?
Yes, it was a signal. It wasn't a stop sign.
Okay.
It was a signal. So coming out of Gates Pond, and then the ability to turn right or left onto 62.
Okay.
But, especially with the lights that are right there now, I don't
Right.
know if there'd be a proximity issue and traffic backing up, but, yeah, to at least push it. If we can't get an
Yep.
answer, then to, let the town know that, they can come to us with a question and we're just not gonna be like, yeah, sorry, we can't do that, bye,
There's a bunch of places at the edges. I don't want to be like physical edges of town, but there are we're a complicated town with a lot of street roads and signs and other stuff. We have a lot of residents and sometimes there are things that we won't be able to make the final call on. But maybe there's things we can do to encourage the people who might have the final say to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because at some point, we truly are gonna have to handle the question of either coming out of south and turning left onto 62 to go to Clinton, or come
Right.
out of Pleasant,
Pleasant and
same
Central.
thing.
Right.
That's a
That's
nightmare.
crazy.
When traffic
Yeah.
returns to normal,
Yeah.
like, I try to go up the back way and down Derby to go through Clinton, but that's even worse because I'm
Mhm.
fighting traffic this way, coming down Boylston Road. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes turning left onto Linden right from Central is kind of like taking your life in your hands at that blind corner. No, really,
Yeah.
it is.
It is. So, maybe it's worth a letter to MassDOT, not only on the Gates Pond signal, or
Right.
maybe we can call that one out, but
Yep.
but on, come to town, MassDOT, our district reps, come
Right,
to
right.
town. And let's do a little site walk. I think we
Yep.
talked about this as part of the pilot project.
Is the traffic advisory meeting, I believe, on Wednesday?
Wednesday night, yes.
And
Yep.
were they going to discuss this at all? Do you know?
They weren't going to discuss this, but I'll add it to the docket just just to call it to their attention. And
Okay.
and they have discussed the whole idea of contacting MassDOT on the other intersections already, so
Okay.
we can bundle this in.
And is the alarm system inside Bullard House yet?
That was
It's in
Scott,
the
you're taking
tutorial
items
building,
off my
and I think
list.
it's been activated.
Okay.
Yep, I think they were just testing it, so.
Okay.
I have this camera in your house, Peg, where I'm just looking over your list and I'm just going to steal all the thunder. So sounds like
That's
I've done
fine.
enough.
I'm good with that. Appreciate it.
I think that's my list. I've looked at the flagged emails I had and we've covered them in other parts of the meeting already.
Okay. Peg?
No, you go.
Oh,
Or should I-
I'm all set.
Okay, all
I
right. So
had
just,
my questions answered already.
all right. So just a few updates. So what was it? Last week, I talked about how Marlboro's doing glass fault and how they're grinding all their glass reusables to use it as an aggregate. Ran into Bob Wheeler from our Board of Health, and by diggity, he said he was watching our meeting and he's already been talking to the town of Marlboro about this. It's not it's cost prohibitive right now. Plus, we'd have to find a way of getting the glass to the facilities to grind them. But it's kind of nice that Board of Health is also going down that road as well.
Makes me wonder if a DEP grant is in the works for that.
Yeah.
You'd think maybe.
Yeah. So Margaret, I don't know if you would know, but when I watched the Earthworks meeting the other night, because it was the same night as ours, there was talk of a permit for leveling off some land on Old Central Street for soil importation. Do you know if that permit has come to the board? Come to us at all?
No, to my knowledge, no.
Okay, all right.
I have to get on that email.
Okay, no, and that's fine. There was just talk, Earthworks was telling them, because it's importation and they're over the cubic foot amount that they would need to pull a permit, and it would have to like come through us and obviously get input from zoning, planning, ZBA. I just didn't know if they had taken that and moved it over to us yet.
I'll have to check, Peg.
No,
won't.
Margaret, you don't need to check. That's fine. You know what? I'll circle back to Earthworks and just tell them, it was theirs. They can check.
The other issue, I was kind of familiar with that issue, but the other thing that I thought about when they were discussing it was the material itself. You know, I mean, one of our bylaws, the earthwork bylaw, deals with volume.
Right.
The like-kind soil bylaw deals with the type of material.
Yes.
And so I'm unclear as to whether the earthwork board, the advisory committee has only been able to deal with the volume piece of it and has left the like-kind soil piece of it out. This gets back to a request the board had for me really early on when I came here of let's take a look at maybe combining.
And you know what, and Margaret, it came up again. So there's not, from what I gathered from the meeting, there's not an issue with like-kind soil. It is the importation that
Okay.
there's like 20,000 cubic feet or whatever what's allowed. If you do out the math, they're at like 32,400. So it's the importation, and they also talked about, yeah, we've got a bylaw for this and we've got a bylaw for this. And, you know, the former building commissioner was going to try and combine them. It never worked. So at some point, maybe Earthworks can look at having that, because they are also talking about the increase as well that, you know, never came out. So, you know, Mary, bless her heart, was pulling up articles left and right for people to take a look at. So, you know, that's fine. If it hasn't made its way to us, then it hasn't made its way to us. Well, I
Right.
guess we'll just wait. Okay. And then the last one that I had was, and it can hold until next week, because I might want to add a few more things, was the March submission for the item. So,
Oh,
Did you have a chance to look at that,
I
Scott?
put that in there.
Yes, I did. I read it. I thought it read pretty nicely.
okay,
And I gave you my suggestions, Peg.
all right.
And I will never catch typos.
I just want to add the piece. Well, maybe we'll delay because I wanted to put something in there for Earth Day, but nah, you know what? We'll let it
Yeah.
roll. We'll let it roll.
I think Earth
and-
Day is great. Is a good on its own sort of article too.
All right. Okay.
All right.
I don't know that the 3 benches we're ordering will actually replace the current benches. They might
Okay.
supplement them. So
All right. Okay.
that's to be determined.
All right.
So, you know, I guess with that suggestion, then I guess consider it approved.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. I'll get it into Miss Jan.
All right.
All righty. That's it. I'm done.
Well, that was easy.
It was. Well, Scott took like 4 of my questions, so, you know.
Well, that's it.
Oh, all right. And never mind. Yeah, Louise is gonna talk to Diagnose about Earth Day. Okay. And I'll follow
Okay.
up next time we meet with them.
Go ahead, Margaret.
One last thing. I meant to verbally ask this in my TA report, but I think it's time that the board needs to do my annual performance appraisal again. We're in March now. So Chris, I'll talk with you about that at agenda setting. We can get the evaluation forms circulated and start working on that.
All right. Thank you for reminding
I
me.
don't look forward to it. Who does? But,
Oh, come on.
we'll
You
get it
should look
done.
forward to
Get
it.
it done.
Hmm,
I know. Okay.
All right. Well,
Cool.
seeing as how we don't have anything for executive session tonight, I guess I would take a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Second,
Okay. Key 5.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins eye.